Luper radio show, and today's show is being made possible by your favorite Allstate insurance agent, Marilyn Hildred. Whatever you do, wherever you go, remember you need insurance. And if you need insurance, you certainly need to call Marilyn Hildred. The telephone number is 755-7252. It doesn't make any difference what kind of insurance you want. Call Marilyn Hildred. Today's program is going to be one that you will remember for a long, long time. It will be a program that's full of excitement. No wonder you say to me, Clara, I never miss your radio show. That shows your intelligence. Something is going on very important at the Greater Cleves CME Church. That church is under the pastorate of Dr. Jonathan E. Bradshaw, who will be holding a revival, which will start on February the 11th through the 15th. The evangelist for the week will be the Reverend Steve Fales. Reverend Fales is a native of Oklahoma City and member of the Greater Cleves Church family. He's a graduate of Northeast High School, attended Lane College in Jackson, Tennessee, and continued his ministerial studies at the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Reverend Fales is currently serving as a pastor of the Mount Calvary CME Church in Statesville, North Carolina. His church resides within the 7th Episcopal District of the CME Church. Bishop Ori Broomfield, a former pastor of Greater Cleves, is the presiding bishop of that district. Now, those of you that would like to hear some good preaching, remember the revival will start at 7 o'clock at the Greater Cleves, located at 1609 Northeast 48th Street in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The Joint Steward Board of the Greater Cleves Memorial CME Church will observe their annual day at a 3:30 p.m. afternoon service on Sunday, February the 17th, 1991. The theme of the program is Standing on the Promises of God. The pastor of Christ Temple CME Church of Tulsa, the Reverend Robert L. Peoples, will preach the sermon. The choir of Christ Temple CME Church will render music. You are invited to worship at the Greater Cleves CME Church on Sunday, February the 17th, 1991 at 3:30 p.m. You do need a new tailor-made suit. All you will have to do is call Sir Charles the tailor. In attendance will ever be able to forget. It marked what can be done when people decide to take their own destiny in their hand. It was reported that when the academy started at the St. John's Missionary Baptist Church, there were 27 students. But today, the academy has over 107 students from the kindergarten through the 3rd grade. Now, if you had been there, if you could have seen those young people dressed uniformly in their beautiful red, it was something to behold. If you could have seen the music, if you could have heard these young people speak, you would have been proud. Congratulations to Dr. W.K. Jackson, Dr. Jameson, Dr. English, and others that are responsible for that program. And it was so good to see our elected representatives on the platform. It was great to hear Senator Vicky Miles LaGrange, Representative Munson, the president of the school board, Thelma Parks, speak from the balcony, from the platform. It was just a wonderful, and also Representative Cox, who brought greetings, and they gave citations to Moss. Why is it that Dr. Moss always carries such a crowd? He does it because he's a man of experience. He served with Dr. Martin Luther King, well educated. He took the T off of Kent and marched on to victory. His mother died when he was 6 years old. His father died when he was 16 years old. Yet he was able to go on, finish his education, bring happiness, success, and intellectual contentment to those people that was so much in need of it. He told us that it has not yet appeared what we can be like. And one story that I shall never forget, I want to share with you. He stated that when he was in school, naturally he remembered many things. But he remembered a teacher that in spite of his poverty, in spite of his dress, that teacher would smile at him and encourage him. And he was anxious to go to school and study to please that teacher. And as he grew up and climbed the ladder of success, wherever he would go, he would always want to call his teacher. Now he said, if you're going to be a teacher, be a good teacher. If you're going to be a preacher, be a good preacher. If you're going to be a doctor, be a good doctor. And speaking of being a good teacher, today I would like to salute an outstanding teacher. A teacher at the Pleasant Hill Elementary School who was recently selected to be included in the first edition of Who's Who Among American Teachers. This teacher is also included in the current edition of Who's Who in American Education. She's a graduate of Central State University and received a master's degree in elementary education from Oklahoma City University. The teacher is Betty Noakes. Betty Noakes, this is your program, and certainly I'm dedicating this program to the members of the Zeta Phi Beta sorority who will be celebrating their final Womanhood Week. The celebration will start this morning at 10 o'clock when the members of the Zeta Phi Beta sorority meet at the Hilton Inn West in Oklahoma City, and will continue with a luncheon at 11:30. At that time, the former president of the NACP, Dr. Barbara Posey Jones, will deliver the address. We do have about 3 seats left, and those of you that would like to attend this luncheon, where outstanding women in this community will be honored, you are certainly invited. The Zeta Phi Beta sorority celebrating Final Womanhood Week. The members of the sorority will meet with their current Miss Merry Christmas, Shelley Marie Luper, tomorrow at 11 o'clock at the 5th Street Baptist Church. And 5th Street will have a warm welcome out for the members of the Zeta Phi Beta sorority. The Zeta Phi Beta sorority, the sorority that has given so much to Oklahoma City. Let me remind you, it was a Zeta, Clara McFall, who became the first black person to serve on the jury in the state of Oklahoma. Let me also remind you that it was a Zeta, Leela Lovejoy, that served as the first director of elementary education in the state of Oklahoma. Let me remind you that it was a Zeta, Evelyn LaRue Pittman, who directed the choir and led the maneuver that led to the building of the YWCA and became an international known composer. Let me remind you that it was a Zeta, Dr. Freddie Kutcher, who became the first consultant on secondary education in the state of Oklahoma. Could I remind you of the achievements of the Zetas? I would have to open the musical book. I would have to tell you that it was a Zeta, Johnny Kimbrough, that established the first professional music school in the state of Oklahoma. She has her own music studio teaching piano, organ, and other instruments. Let me tell you about the Zetas, and certainly you say, Clara, why are you talking about the Zetas? I'm talking about the Zetas because of their contribution, and certainly I will talk about you if you let me know about your contribution. To the community of Oklahoma City, the Stacy's Touch of Elegance and Surety Bail Bonds would like to extend to you a very special invitation to participate in their first annual Black Heritage Scholarship Awards. The show will be held at the Marriott Convention Center, 1 Marriott Garden, on February the 24th at 6 p.m. It will be a dinner. There will be a special guest, Tutu and the Truthettes. And speaking of the Truthettes, I just don't feel the people in Oklahoma gives them enough credit. As I travel across the country, the first thing someone asks me is about the Truthettes. The speaker will be Gary A.G. Now, we are asking you to be there. The tickets are only $17.50. Give the youth a chance. You may call 752-0836 or 232-9446. You will also have some poetry that will be performed by Deborah Matthews. How much do you know about the Oklahoma County chapter of the National Association for Black Social Workers? Well, I've invited the president here today, and you will be hearing from him later on in the program. So if you have a friend, call your friend and tell him that Clara Luper promised you the best, and I'm going to give you the best. And do you have a pencil? I would like for you to write this down. On Tuesday, Clara Luper proudly presents her Black History Special on Channel 19 at 7 p.m. It will feature attorney Jeff Hartman, the father of 10 children and his lovely wife. I want you to see this show. Now, that's not all that I will give to you. I will present to you the president of the Urban League, Leonard Benton, the president of the NACP, Roosevelt Milton, the pastor of the Fairview Baptist Church, Reverend John Reed, and God's great gift to all of us, a young man who is destined to become a great singer, Dwayne Starks, who will open the television show and who will close it with one of my favorite songs. Now, that's not enough. On February the 17th, and that's on not this Sunday, next Sunday, Channel 25 will present Clara Luper and Kay Floyd in a discussion of the Dow case. Now, I don't want you to miss that. I don't know anything that you should miss. Don't miss the Clara Luper television shows, and especially don't miss the one on Channel 19 at 7 p.m. on February the 12th, or the one on Channel 25 at 9:30 p.m. on Channel 25. Now, don't put that down and call a friend and tell them that you want to hear our side of it. It's another side to the story. I have in my hand the decision, and it's the minority decision of the court that was written by the Honorable Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood Marshall states that segregation is wrong, and his argument is unbelievable. I would like for you to come by our office or call me so you can read what Thurgood Marshall say. Now, I don't know what these other doctors around here, these doctors of education, reading the books that's been written by somebody else. I don't know what they are going to say, but I know what Thurgood Marshall says. He says that the Oklahoma City has not eliminated the vestiges of segregation. I want you to read it. And speaking of what I want you to do, I want you to go to the top. The bottom is too crowded. I want you to go to the top. And speaking of going to the top, last night I had the opportunity to see Northeast High School defeat Grant High School. It was quite a game, and certainly I would like to congratulate all of the basketball players from Grant High School. Now, Shelley told me to make this announcement. Shelley's not here today. She, as other seniors, she is taking her ACT test. Now, she told me to say that. She didn't tell me to tell you that the girls lost, but I'm going to tell you that the girls at Northeast High School lost. How can you lose? How can you lose with the stuff that you have. We're going to have just a bit of music, and I'll be talking to the president of Langston University. And I want you to remain on the ball, and you're on the ball with Clara Luper. Now, here's a song for the Zetas. Hey, I would like to salute the Zetas, and when you're talking about teachers, you're talking about Zetas. You're talking about Lola Greer, who probably taught more basic math than anyone else in Oklahoma. You're talking about Elster Swain. You're talking about Letty Ruth Hunter, and I should go on down the line. But today, Dr. L. Dow would like to salute the members of the Zeta Phi Beta sorority as they celebrate their final womanhood services. The Dr. Dow is located at 934 Northeast 8th Street here in Oklahoma City. His telephone number is 235-0536. Langston's Food Market, Langston, Oklahoma, serving that classic barbecue. And if it's barbecue you want, be sure and remember to go to Langston, Oklahoma on Highway 33 and pick up some of that delicious classic barbecue that will satisfy your taste. And speaking of satisfying your taste, there are so many times that you wonder why. And many of you have called me. You've told me how handsome Mr. Gates, Robert S. Gates was. You have told me what a great barber he was. You have told me how much you enjoy my talking about him on radio. But what you don't know about Mr. Robert L. Gates is his dedication to the great cause of Christianity. Did you know that he was a member of the Tabitha Baptist Church? Do you know that he has participated in what he loves best, and that's music, for years and years at that church? Do you really know Mr. Robert L. Gates, the man? He can say, we make people beautiful, but he cannot tell you how much inspiration he has given to people all over the country. It's not surprising that even today, if you pass by his barbershop located at 2609 North Martin Luther King Boulevard, you will see cars stacked up. You will see people that have driven all over the Oklahoma City areas in order to get that touch that only Mr. Robert L. Gates and his fine staff, Wilbert Miles and Willie Gamble, can give. And so today, we want you to remember Mr. Robert L. Gates at the Gates Barbershop here in Oklahoma City. And this is what he says to the Zetas. Dear Zetas, congratulations to each one of you as you celebrate your final Womanhood Week, and may God continue to bless you. From Mr. Robert L. Gates. As we turn the pages of history, we know that this is Black History Month. It's known, and there are some things that we need to prepare for. First, the National Baptist Congress USA will be coming to Oklahoma City on June 17th. Now, one thing we've got to do, we've got to get all of this bad writing off of the buildings on the northeast side of Oklahoma City. We've got to clean our streets. We've got to show the whole nation what Oklahoma stands for. Now, where do we start? We started our own homes. We started our own businesses. And certainly you can do it, and we call upon you to do it. You can even get your carpet cleaned by R.J. and Sons. That's Rudolph Jones, who's the manager, and you may call him at 751-4814. This is the Clara Luper radio show, and today I'm saluting the members of the Zeta Phi Beta sorority. This is your program, Emma June Green. This is your program, Basilis Franklin. Nyla Jewel Phillips, a Zeta that started the first beauty school here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. It's all yours, and it was a Zeta that brought Miss Black Oklahoma to Oklahoma. It was a Zeta, Clara Luper. It's a Zeta, Marilyn Hildred, who becomes the first to have her own all-state independent agent located here in Oklahoma City. Don't take my word for it. Search the records. Search the records, and the Zetas will stand out. I have the opportunity today to talk to the president of the National Association of Black Social Workers. And certainly I would like to welcome you to the Clara Luper radio show. You're welcome to my show, sir.
In the spirit of Harambe, Miss Luper, I bring you greetings on behalf of the members, board of directors, and local officers of the Oklahoma County chapter of the National Association of Black Social Workers, and also the Lenny Marie Tolliver Alternative Care Center. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here with one of the greats in Oklahoma history today.
Thank you so very kindly. And your name is?
I'm Harold Douglas Jr., and I'm president of the Oklahoma County chapter of the National Association of Black Social Workers.
Who are the other officers?
Our vice president is Harold Beatty. Our secretary is Sandra Mitchell. Our assistant secretary is Georgia Pugh. Correspondent secretary Clarissa Motti. Our sergeant at arms is Mr. Eugene Daniels. And our treasurer is Dolores Pryor, and the member at large are Roosevelt Milton, Clarence Wilder, and Felix Newar.
Okay, now how do you go about becoming a member of your organization?
Our organization is any African American that's interested in preserving the African American history and preserving the black culture within the Oklahoma City area. We're welcoming everybody to become a member.
When you say everybody, which means that a person who's not a social worker can become a member of your organization.
Any African American that has an interest in serving the black community can become a member of the Oklahoma County chapter of the National Association of Black Social Workers.
Okay. Back, don't go away, social workers and friends. Okay, here we are. Dr. Holloway? Hello, Dr. Holloway.
Yes.
How are you this beautiful morning?
Oh, very beautiful. It is a pleasant morning, and I happen to be in your city.
Oh, I'm welcome to Oklahoma City. That has given you many distinguished Langston students. What's going on at Langston University?
Well, of course, we are now engaged in the recognition as all people in America of African American Month, and it's a lot of exciting activities going on. We have just completed our first statewide conference on the African American male and its problems and issues and empowerment. We've just completed a very outstanding Black History program featuring Dr. Otis Moss, and our students were so impressed, along with Dr. Evans, who spoke on yesterday. So a lot of things are happening on the campus of Langston University. We had many Oklahomans to turn out on yesterday, and the campus was just flowing with information, inspiration, as well as knowledge.
All right, how long have you been at Langston University?
As president, I've been 11 years as president.
How many?
11 years.
11 years. That's a long time to be president of Langston University. How many students did you have 11 years ago, how many students were there at Langston University?
11 years ago, there were approximately 900 students.
900 students. How many are there today? 901?
I'm happy to say that at the entire system, there are 3,085, with 1,800 of those students on the main campus.
Just a minute. I didn't understand you. Would you repeat, please?
Yes. Langston University enrollment this year is 3,085 students.
Where did you get all those students from?
Oklahoma City is one of the places because along with all over Oklahoma, we're getting students from every segment of Oklahoma, and we're going to get more. In addition to that, we're getting students from out of state. Many alumni sending their sons and daughters back to Langston University, and you know, there's a trend across this country where many African Americans are returning to the African American universities, and Langston University has been a recipient of that likewise.
Well, you cannot operate a segregated institution.
We are not operating.
How many whites do you have at Langston University?
Operating a segregated institution, and Langston University has been a recipient of that likewise.
But you cannot operate a segregated institution.
We are not
How many whites do you have at Langston University?
operating a segregated institution. It is very diverse. We have probably Oklahoma's only truly multicultural institution. In our entire system, as you well know, and most people know, that we have centers in both Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And of course, the center in Tulsa does include many of our students. And of course, in our entire system, we have approximately 35% of the entire student body.
You have 35% of the population of Langston University. That population is white, 35%.
Correct.
How did you get white students to come to Langston University?
Well, of course, there are many ways. Most of those students, of the 35%, are in our Tulsa program. But on the main campus, we have approximately pretty close to 300 non-black students on the campus. They are coming because, number one, we're offering some high-demand programs. Many programs that they're coming for in our nursing, in our physical therapy, in our business, in our education programs. They're coming because we have quality programs. And of course, we are marketing our programs in a way that everybody feels comfortable. If you would notice, we are sending out our schedules in the small newspapers throughout Oklahoma, and they are taking advantage of it.
Is it true that you have a nursing program and a master's program at Langston University?
It's definitely true. Nursing program offers a degree is a baccalaureate degree. Master's program, this will be our first year, first graduating class. Our first graduating class with a master's degree will be conferred. Students will be conferred the master's degree during the spring convocation. So it's a very historical year for Langston University. And we're just indeed delighted for the quality of support that we do receive from our alumni, from our friends, from many of the legislators, from many of the political leaders of the state. We're looking for greater things under the leadership of Governor Walters.
I understand that you have a vacancy as a football, on your staff as far as a football coach.
Yes.
What are you looking for? Maybe I would like to apply for the job.
Yes, Clara, I don't see why you wouldn't.
I bet you one thing, the boys will run across that line.
I know you will.
Okay, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for a coach that would continue a program where our students will continue to be student athletes, where they come there and graduate, and also can we develop a winning team? We're almost there, and I think hopefully the next course will bring us over the line.
Okay, now if I wanted to apply along with others, what should I do?
You should immediately send because we don't want this a long drawn out. We have February the 23rd is the deadline for applications.
February 23rd?
Yes. Anyone interested in being a coach should send their application along with their resume, along with 3 letters of reference to our personnel officer. And our personnel office at Langston University the person is Miss Beverly Smith, but the office is just the personnel office. You can send it.
Okay, I think it's time for a female coach. Now, I'm going to give you a half a minute.
I'll tell you one thing. If one is out there.
Okay. Okay, now, I'll give you a half a minute to recruit for Langston University.
Okay. Let me tell you this, that Langston University is an institution that remains the most viable alternative for African Americans in Oklahoma as well as in this country. I would recommend that you take advantage, those of you who are academic scholars. We have some very impressive scholarships, the Regent Scholarship, the President Scholarship, the McCabe Scholarship. You need to make application, get admitted, and apply before March the 1st. I encourage you to do that. I encourage all other students to process your financial aid applications now. Langston University is the place to be. And I would welcome you, along with my colleagues, a quality faculty, a quality student body, who not only gains the information, but they learn how to live and survive once they leave Langston University.
Thank you, Dr. Holloway. And today we are saluting the Zetas all over this nation. Would you congratulate the Zetas for me?
Well, congratulate the sisters of blue and white, or white and blue. We know that you have really been true and loyal supporters of Langston University. We have some of our strongest faculty members and strong students who are members of your group. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Holloway.
Thank you.
This is a Clara Luper radio show, and I promise you that I would always give you the best. At this time, there will be many questions answered. You have asked, what does it mean to be black in the United States as we look at Black History Week? I have on a telephone from Fort Sheridan in Illinois one of my former students who's just returned from Saudi Arabia, and I will allow him to tell you exactly what's happening as he sees it in Saudi Arabia. Sergeant Dennis Alexander?
Yes, ma'am.
How are you this morning?
I'm fine.
Well, I would like to congratulate you. I remember quite well when you graduated from John Marshall High School. Do you remember that big moment in your life?
Yes, ma'am.
As we start out, I would like for you to say hello to your mom who's listening and all of your relatives here, along with your classmates, and especially William Allen.
Hello, everybody in Oklahoma City.
Will you talk up just a little bit?
Hello, everybody in Oklahoma City.
Now, when you left John Marshall High School, you enrolled in the United States Army, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you stationed?
I was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas.
At Fort Hood, Texas.
Yeah.
You were promoted too, were you not?
Yes, ma'am.
And you became what in the Army?
At this point,
Yes.
Staff Sergeant.
You were a staff sergeant.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand that you were at Fort Harrison. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I also understand that at Fort Harrison, you were deployed into Saudi Arabia.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, how are the black soldiers doing in Saudi Arabia as you see it?
Well, at this point, like I explained to you before, Ms. Luper, that a lot of the soldiers at this point, I'm not saying all the black soldiers over there are having problems. I'm just saying that there's a lot of black soldiers that are having problems over there, such as myself. And we, as people, are going to have to try to find some type of a linkage between the soldiers and home. Because the problems that I went through over there, it could have been resolved at a company level, but instead it has reached to a 2-star general, and the problem still hadn't been alleviated yet. So what I'm saying is you have a lot of black soldiers over there that's having problems, but there's a difference between having problems and being racial discriminated against. And what I mean by that, a couple of months before I left to go to Saudi Arabia, there was a lot of soldiers complaining that it was hot over there. A lot of the soldiers haven't even been over there long enough to grow a beard. So what I'm saying is that you have two different sectors over there. You have a lot of black soldiers over there that is not having problems, but you have a few over there that's having problems, such as myself.
Okay, let's go over the problems that you have. Now, first, let me ask you, do you feel these are racial problems?
Definitely.
Okay, now, how have you been discriminated against or treated in Saudi Arabia?
Well, when I arrived in Saudi Arabia on December the 20th, I was having a lot of problems with my company commander and the first sergeant, and along with some of the other black soldiers, along with some of the white soldiers, was having problems with the company commander and first sergeant. So by me being an active duty component in a reserve system, a lot of the soldiers was coming to me and asking me, can these individuals indeed do what they was doing over there, as far as using the word nigger, using the word colored folks, and things like this. And once the chain of command, my supervisors were beginning to see that I was informing these soldiers, I was advising these soldiers that no, they cannot do that to you. So at that time, they began to focus in on Sergeant Alexander. We have to get rid of this guy one way or another. So on December the 25th, we had a meeting, and I stood on my feet, and I told them that before I go to the front lines with this unit, I will go to jail. And maybe a couple hours later, I talked to the chaplain, and I told him how I felt as far as the pressure that was put on myself, that I was almost at the brink of not really committing suicide, but we didn't have any support level over there. And that night, I was taken into the hospital to a mental ward to be treated. I sat in the hospital from 25 December until the 2nd of January, and only seen my doctor maybe once or twice, and the only thing he told me, he wouldn't even really help my problem. So I was released on 2nd of January, and I explained to the doctor, I don't think I need to go back to this unit, and I need to be transferred, and someone needs to look into the problem. But it didn't really matter to him that I went back to the unit and dealt with the problems or not. So I was released from the hospital on the 2nd of January. And I was thrown in this small room, and 4 individuals came in, my first sergeant, company commander, a staff sergeant, and the chaplain. And they wrote sworn statements that I threatened to kill my first sergeant. I was released from the hospital. I went back.
Okay, now wait a minute. Did you threaten your first sergeant?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
What did you say to him?
When they came in the door, I more or less explained to them that, I more or less gave it up on trying to fight them as far as the system, that I do whatever you want me to do, and I done had enough to whereas, I would probably end up hurting somebody if it continued. Like any other soldier in the military, you have a chain of command that should resolve these problems. But it didn't happen that way. So the pressures of just being there, the pressures that when I was in Panama, and the pressures I was receiving from the chain of command was more than I can bear. So I was more or less telling them that, hey, I give up. You whatever you want me to do, I do it, but just do not harass me anymore. So I explained to them, anyone would tell these people that, look, I won't end up getting hurt if this continues.
Okay, now what happened next?
After that, I was told to stay in the room. A couple of minutes later, there was 3 MPs came, apprehended me, and taking me back to the hospital, which was the same day. And when I went back to the hospital, the doctor told me, well, you're back again. And it was seemed to me it was more like not a setup, but he knew, and the chaplain knew, that I was at the brink. I was at the end of the rope. But he released me from the hospital knowing I was having problems with the unit and sent me right back into the same situation. So on the 2nd of January, I was returned back to the hospital. And on the 5th of January, I explained to the doctor that it was getting pretty close to that time when the balloon would go up on the 15th of January. So I explained to him that I needed to go down to the unit, or someone needs to go down to the unit, and my gear, my chemical gear and my other personal gear. And he asked me, well, Sergeant Alexander, do you want to go back to your bed and play the game? And I just said, well, sir, I think I need to go get my gear. And someone needs to go get my gear. So he once said again, Sergeant Alexander, do you want to go back to your bed and play the game? So I said, well, no, sir, I just need my gear. That's all I'm asking you to do. And at that time, he walked away. He said, okay, and he walked away. And one of the head nurses approached me, and he said, Sergeant Alexander, I'm going to try to get your gear. Just go back to your bed. And I said, well, okay, no problem, as long as I get my gear up here. And after a few minutes, I looked up. He told me, Sergeant Alexander, you need to pack your gear. I asked him, what's going on? He said, well, you're going to be placed under arrest. You're going back down to your unit. So at that time, I got my gear from under the hospital bed, and these 3 Air Force security guards took me to an Army security place, and next thing you know, they handcuffed me. They threw me in the back of a a military vehicle. They handcuffed me to some type of a steel ring in back of the.
Okay, just talk up just a bit for me.
What happened is they handcuffed me and they threw me in back of this truck with a steel ring to where it was sort of like I was treated like an animal, and they handcuffed me to the back of a ring in back of a seat. And at that time, I went back down to the unit, and I was released to my company commander. The next day, I went to see an attorney, and she, in fact, told me that it just doesn't seem right by the sworn statements. They're saying 4 different things. And when I was released from the unit, one of the soldiers who was one of the actual witnesses came forth with a statement stating that Sergeant Alexander didn't threaten anyone. So at that time, the case was froze. Nobody knew what to do with.
Okay, so they had accused you of threatening someone, and then a white soldier came forward and said that you had not threatened anyone, but yet you went through all of that kind of treatment.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly right. And before I left to come back to the United States, I was under guard, be shipped out. And one of the white soldiers left her weapon at the docks. That morning, I was woken up about 12:30 in the morning, which they call CID agents, is what they call detectives in civilian life. And he woke me up and he said, "Well, Sergeant Alexander, I need you to step away from your cot." So I got up and I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Well, you are a suspect of larcening a weapon." So at that time, my heart dropped to my feet, and I asked him, "Well, what do you mean by larcening a weapon?" So he indeed said, "Well, Sergeant Alexander, you are accused, or you are a suspect for stealing a weapon." So primarily the whole day I was guarded by individuals, and he indeed did the paperwork. So the next morning, one of my soldiers woke me up and said, "Sergeant Alexander, guess what? They found the weapon." So I asked him, "Whose weapon was it?" And they said, "Well, it was a little white private, and she left a weapon on the docks somewhere." And I said, "Well, here they was accusing me of stealing a weapon. I could have done some serious time for that." So this same morning, they wanted me to go see the commanding general concerning this. And I stopped one of the agents out in the hall, and I said, "Well, sir, I heard that you guys found the weapon." So he said, "Well, Sergeant Alexander, can we just forget it? Can we just drop it? You know, there wasn't any charges brought against you, so can we just drop it?" And I said, "Well, sir, we can drop it at this point. But you know and I know, if you guys hadn't found that weapon, I could have done some very serious time for that."
Well, have you seen any combat duty in Saudi Arabia?
I was in Dhahran. Dhahran is approximately 8 hours from the front. So actually, the only thing that I saw is more or less the missiles that were shot toward Dhahran.
Is it true that you were there without any weapons to protect yourself during the time that you had that experience?
Yes, ma'am. My weapon was taken from me on the 25th of December. And if you subtract the days I spent approximately maybe 13 days in the hospital on and off those two separate occasions. So from the time I was released from the hospital for the last time, which was January the 5th, I hadn't had a weapon from that time on until I left Saudi, which was the 1st or 2nd of February.
As you see it, did the white soldiers have weapons?
Yes, ma'am. Everybody had weapons except myself.
All right. Now, when you reported, and I would like to thank you because the time you got back to America, you called me. And let me tell you what we were able to do. I immediately called the president of the NACP, the president of the Urban League, the president of CCL, Mr. Eddie Stamps. And what happened? We started working. We did exactly what you told us to do. We tried to get in contact with Major Brooks and could not. We tried to get in contact with Sergeant McDonald and couldn't. And Lady Ruth Hunter and I went directly to the White House. We spoke directly to the person that's in charge of discrimination as far as military was concerned. And then we went directly to the Undersecretary of the Army. I think his name is Shope. We talked to him. We told him this was an emergency and he had to do something. In the meantime, Mr. Stamps was calling the Glenn English's office, Senator Bourne's office. And then by that time, we started getting calls back from the White House. We got 3 calls, and finally we got in contact. They got in contact with us because when we called the White House first, they wanted to know who in the world we were. And we told them we were American citizens and we were calling on behalf of Sergeant Dennis Alexander. Now, what we would like for you to do tomorrow, or if you can do it this evening, we would appreciate it if you would get in contact with Lieutenant Colonel Hicks there on the base. And we have been assured by the Pentagon, by the President's aide, that you will receive justice. Now, one question before I let you go.
Yes, ma'am.
Are black soldiers being mistreated, as far as you see it, in Saudi Arabia? And is it true that you brought back to America signed complaints from some 14 out of the 18 blacks in your unit?
Yes, ma'am. Like I said before, I brought 14 of 18 soldiers, black soldiers, also white soldiers, that there's racial discrimination and some of the racial discrimination that they have went through personally. And for example, like I said before, the active components, active duty, I don't know too much about what's happening with those guys. The only thing I know is I was locked in that compound, and I witnessed a couple occasions whereas there's 3 different units that came through from Louisiana or Mississippi, and a lot of the guys was complaining that there is a lot of racial discrimination that is happening here. And when you start using the word nigger and colored folks and things like this, that's unacceptable to me, see? And I'm not going to tolerate it. And I told those soldiers, this is what you need to do. Stop it. So a couple of weeks that I was there, I witnessed some racial discrimination I thought that was alleviated many years ago. But it's still here, see? And it's going to stay here until some of these soldiers start standing up and start using that chain of command, and that chain of command has to be effective for the soldiers.
It's been such a pleasure, Dennis, to talk to you, and I know everybody in Oklahoma will be not only praying for you, but praying for peace. And I do hate to hear that many of the reservists that are going in from segregated ideas have taken that to Saudi Arabia.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so very kindly, and you're going to stay in contact with your teacher. Everybody asks, why did you call me in place of other teachers?
Well, I'm gonna put it like this, Miss Luper. When I was back in John Marshall, I never forget the times that I walk in your class with my hat on, and you said, well, Dennis, you need to take that hat off your head. And a lot of times, you had a lot of faith in me, because of the simple fact, I remember times we used to pull me in a library and you said, told me how to sign my name professionally. I never forget none of this stuff. So I never forget the time when you said, when you get on your black feet, and you tell it like it is. You see, that was taken into the Army with me. And when I stepped into that unit, they seen that I had a Marine Corps haircut. I was a starch soldier, and I had stripes coming up and down my collar, and I made these 6 with less than 12 years in the military, and a lot of these soldiers retire with 20 years in the military. They couldn't adjust to that, you see. So when I came back to the United States, I said the first person I need to contact is Clara Luper.